We gotta talk about why a Republican state senator just stood on the floor of the South Carolina Senate for 45 minutes and killed Donald Trump's plan to redraw the state's congressional maps. Because he is not a moderate, he's definitely not a Democrat. He actually helped Republicans gerrymander South Carolina in 2021, and as it turns out, his stated reasons for blocking Trump is that the new map would have driven up black turnout in November. So it's one of the weirdest moments in the redistricting war so far. So some broader context here. Republicans, by almost every measure, have won the redistricting war of the last 6 months. Virginia's redistricting referendum was killed in court. The Supreme Court gutted Section 2 with the Voting Rights Act. We just covered earlier this week SCOTUS clearing Alabama to revert to a previously discriminatory map 7 days before its primary. Tennessee just split Memphis into 3 pieces, and Florida and Missouri are running similar plays. So South Carolina, it was the next target on Trump's list. And the goal was to redraw the state's 7 congressional districts to take out the only Democratic seat currently held by 17-term incumbent James Clyburn. And when Clyburn was first elected in 1993, he was the first black member of Congress from South Carolina since Reconstruction. And one of the big things we saw is that Trump leaned into all of this personally. He posted on Truth Social that he was counting on South Carolina's elected leaders to level the playing field. Right, those were his words, not the reality. He also told them to be bold and courageous. He personally called Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey to make sure that the vote went through. And then, in front of the Senate, Massey said no, with Massey speaking for over 45 minutes on the floor of the South Carolina Senate. And the speech is unusual not just for what it killed, but for what it openly said. And remember, you're gonna have to wait to the end to take everything in as a whole.
Too many people in power just want to do whatever it takes to stay in power. They'll do whatever it takes to keep it. But I ask, to what end? What do you do with it when you've attained it?
Right, so that appears to be a Republican Senate Majority Leader in the middle of his own party's national redistricting push, asking the question out loud about his own side.
I cannot in good conscience surrender this authority that has been preserved to, for, and by the states and merely take orders from those who are not in South Carolina.
He also talked at length about federalism and the separation of state legislative power from federal pressure. He also reportedly went so far as to compare his current stand to South Carolina's history as state resistance, and that including what was described as awkwardly invoking Civil War history. Right, South Carolina was actually the first state to secede from the Union. So when Massey says he has too much Southern blood and too much resistance in his heritage to give in, he's making a comparison that many South Carolinians will read one way and many others on the outside are going to read another. But then Massey's biggest argument against redrawing the map, it had kind of 3 legs. The first is what's called the dummy mander problem, right? The idea that when you spread out one party's voters too thin to flip an extra district, you might actually flip other safer districts that are at least safe right now. Or with South Carolina Republicans currently holding 6 to 7 House seats.
If we start tinkering with this, my concern is that we can make this a whole lot worse.
The second's then constituency, with Massey arguing that breaking up Clyburn's district, which covers a wide swath of majority black communities in South Carolina, it would split up the federal policy coalition that the state has historically relied on. Like voters in his district, they've spent decades organizing around federal policy priorities together. Splitting them up, it dilutes their effectiveness, including, he argued, for South Carolina as a whole. But then that brings us to the third leg, with Massey saying on the record in his own speech,
I also think that one of the side effects of this is, very candidly, you're going to motivate black turnout, and there will be repercussions for that. There will be down ballot repercussions for that.
Which is definitely something I expected him to say in back rooms, but not openly on camera. He is openly telling his colleagues that one of the reasons he opposes this map is that it's going to energize black people to vote and show up, that it would hurt Republican prospects down ballot. Not because he cares about his constituents who are black people, but because it would lead to more black people voting. And it is so important that we highlight that, because you can't give Massey credit for the federalism part without naming the explicit voter suppression logic in the same speech. Because understand, when you take Massey in as a whole, he is not a hero of voting rights. He helped Republicans redraw South Carolina's map in 2021 to give the GOP an advantage. And so all the other stuff that he's talking about, it's just window dressing for what's really naked partisan calculation. And again, this is nowhere near the end of what this whole mess is. For one, South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster is already gearing up to announce a special session on the new maps this week. I mean, even today, as I was recording this story, it was reported that Georgia Governor Kemp called a special session to redraw 2028 maps. And so that's another important aspect of this. We have to think about what's happening with 2026 and 2028. Both matter, but at different levels right now.